Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us this evening for our 2020 MFL Curriculum Evening. It's a really great chance for us to give you some information about where a language can take you and give you some top revision tips from Mr. Price about how to effectively use Caboodle.
As you can imagine, the exams this summer will have a slightly different format. Normally, we'd have the 4 skills assessed in the exam window and each worth 25%. Well, this year it's slightly different. Only 3 skills will be assessed formally in the exam window. That will be reading, listening, and writing. However, the speaking will be assessed outside that window with a teacher endorsement type of assessment. So we would encourage you to keep all your 4 skills going, to keep practicing your speaking, because you will be tested in that skill. But we will update you on what format it's likely to take and any other information you need in order to be really successful in all the 4 skills. Good luck.
We really hope you enjoy this evening and find it informative. So next up, we've got some really exciting clips from former students and people that use languages every day in their careers. Then we have our guest speaker, Richard Jones, who is we were really excited to have with us this evening. And then we've got Mr. Price with his top revision tips for years 9, 10 and 11 and how to get the best out of using Caboodle and ensuring your GCSE success. After that, there will be a live question and answer session for you, and that's your opportunity to ask any questions that you might have from this evening or in general about the GCSE course in French and German. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily. I'm a Year 13 student at the Polesware School and I do German. I started in Year 7 and I've carried on all the way until A-level. I started off in Year 7 not knowing anything about German. I've never done it before. So I just tried my best to interact in lessons, really keep myself confident and going on with it. I'd say one of the most important things in languages is to keep on top of your vocab. It's a lot better with languages to keep doing things often, so little and often, rather than doing large chunks of work at different stages. So just to keep on top of work, stay confident, stay positive. Don't beat yourself down when you do something a little bit wrong or you don't understand something. Just keep going, keep persevering. The staff are all there for you and they'll help you whenever you need them. Because everybody's in the same boat. They all know how you're feeling. It's all new to them too. I think past papers, when you get to the later stages of school, past papers are really important to keep that momentum going in the revision, as then you know what examiners are looking for. So just keep going, have confidence and keep on top of it. After my A-levels, I hope to study German and English literature at university. I think languages are something that are really important to have as you go on in life, as there are more job opportunities. I would love to do interpreting perhaps, or maybe go into the business sector of languages. They're just a really useful thing to have and they're very rare among candidates for jobs nowadays. So it's always good to have that extra thing on your application.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Wands and I work as a captain for Europe's largest airline. Over my 6-year career, I've been based down in Portugal, working out of Porto for 10 months. I've been based over in Berlin, I wish I lived in Berlin for 7 months, and I've worked out of almost every single European country at some point. Now, back when I was younger, I studied German in secondary school, but I didn't really realise the opportunity that I was getting at the time. I didn't really see the point in learning a foreign language. It's only now, as my career's taken me all over Europe, that I understand that the skill that I could have developed during my secondary school education, which I never did, and is one of my big regrets now. I work alongside a multitude of different nationalities, such as German, Portuguese, Dutch, Polish, and all the people that I work alongside, they all have that communication skill of switching between foreign languages. Now, most of the people that I work with, they've got their own national language and they can also speak English. But as alongside speaking English, they can also speak other European languages as well. And it's something that I really regret, especially when I'm in conversations with them, when I can see that they can switch quite easily between different languages. And from speaking to them, they've always said that learning the first foreign language is the hardest. Once you've learned one foreign language, it then becomes easier to learn different foreign languages afterwards. Now, for me, I really wish if I was back in school now and I could speak to sort of my 15-year-old self, I really wish I could tell them that, come on, you've got a great opportunity to learn a foreign language here, especially when you're a bit younger. Your brain absorbs more information, it's more receptive for it as well. So, especially with Brexit at the moment and other factors, all I can say is I really stress for you, if you've got the opportunity to learn a foreign language, which you do being in secondary school, or your children do whilst they're in secondary school, they've got the support networks, they've got the teachers who can speak the foreign language as well. Whilst you've got all of that support network, I strongly advise you to really take the opportunity to learn a foreign language, because as I was saying, if you learn one foreign language, you've opened the doors to not only knowing one foreign language, but also then learning multiple foreign languages on top of that. Also, when you're interacting with foreign people, not only can you interact in English, but you can then also interact in maybe their nationality and national language, or a common European national language as well. I really wish that I had taken the opportunity while in school to learn a foreign language such as German or Spanish or French, rather than trying to learn it at a later age. So I hope that my experience will help you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ellie and I am an ex-student of the Polesworth School, and I was at the Polesworth High School and sixth form, so I've been there a very long time and know it very, very well. And I was asked by the teachers at the Modern Languages department to basically talk to you about why I find languages useful and how I revised really during A-level. I studied German at GCSE and A-level, and I'm now studying German and English literature at University of Birmingham. I'm a fresher. And if you asked me when I was in year 8 whether I was going to do German A-level or German at degree, I'd go, no, I don't need to learn German because I'm not going to live in Germany. And that would be the extent of my explanation. Whereas now, if you ask me, I'll go, oh, of course you've got to learn German, or a language, for example. And that is really highly valued, whether it be at university, whether it be in businesses, whether it just be with people. I've got Norwegian friends now that I have met purely through going, oh, I study German. And like, oh, well, you study a language, that's really interesting. And they really appreciate that you study a language because it shows the amount of effort and understanding you have, and that willingness to just be open to other people's cultures, really. Not saying that people who don't study languages aren't open to other people's cultures, but I think we're naturally more inclined. From an academic point of view, in English the other day, I saw a word that I did not understand. And I was like, right, how do I understand this word? I thought, well, what do I do in German when I can't understand something? And I look at this text and I go, well, what's the text about? What's the sentence around it talking about? What would make sense in that sentence? What's the kind of semantic field? What's the subject field that we're working with? Oh, it must mean something like this. And even if you get it wrong, it's the best way to learn. And that's what I did in English. I couldn't think what was going on. I looked at the semantics behind it and thought, okay, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be that. And then eventually I got the meaning of the word just through deduction and just through having that critical thinking ability that you develop in German. It's ironic, my English has been made better by my studies in German. If I've got any advice, make sure you plant your feet firmly on the ground. If you do not understand something, say it. There is nothing wrong with getting things wrong. And I know people say this all the time, and I know people get really embarrassed, but getting things wrong is the best way to learn, 100%. But allowing yourself to make mistakes and remembering why you made the mistake and how not to make mistakes, and those additional pathways to transfer that information to your memory is essential, because it is a language that you do not speak. my other advice would be make it fun. Learning is not fun if you tell a kid to go and sit down and do their work. They're going to go, no, it's boring, I'd rather play this or I'd rather do that. So make it fun for yourselves. I used to watch Netflix in German because as much as I love watching Netflix, I'd do that instead of my work and think, I thought at one point I need to do something more productive. So I'd listen to it in German, or I'd put a podcast on in German, music in German if you want, not to my taste, but you can just immerse yourself in the language. So you're subconsciously taking in the information without even trying. And if you're working smart and not hard, it's ideal. Like you can give yourself that break from drilling vocab to just hearing it. It's a slow burning system. You can't expect to pick up this massive amount of weight when you've never lifted weight before in your life. And so very much have patience with yourself. And when you have this much work to do, compartmentalize it. So go, right, I need to do prepositions on Monday. I need to do this on Tuesday. I need to do that on Wednesday. And lay it out in a system that doesn't seem daunting. 10 minutes every day is better than 1 hour the night before, is what my lecturer tells us. And I stick by that, and I very much agree by it. But yeah, overall, I would say make sure you have that stable foundation for your knowledge. Any questions, ask them. Any mistakes, embrace them. And just, you've got to be determined, you've got to have grit, and find ways to enjoy it. Anyway, I wish you all the best in your studies, especially amidst COVID, but I'm sure you will all do really well. If you have any doubts, like I said, you've got a lovely department around you. I was lucky enough to have been taught by them for 7 years, and I'd love to be taught by them again, but I've moved on now, I'm in uni. But yeah, good luck to you guys, and I hope this was useful.
Hi, so my name's Alex. I've been asked to talk to you guys a little bit about my experiences with studying languages and how that's helped me throughout my life and through my career. So I studied languages through school, taking French and German through GCSE and then on to A-level. After that, I went to university in Nottingham and decided to do modern language studies, which meant choosing a third language, essentially doing an A-level in that language in the first year. I chose Spanish, so I added that to my studies. Now, studying languages through university was actually not quite what you think. It wasn't just sort of endless vocab and grammar and speaking and listening tests, but rather it allowed for a much wider range of subjects. So history to philosophy and literature and politics, but all about a foreign country and in a foreign language. And of course, at university, that meant for a great year abroad, I was doing 3 languages. So I did a semester at a university in Paris. I did the following semester at the University of Heidelberg in Germany. And that was sandwiched either side by language courses in Barcelona. Now, many of my peer group and my course mates at university, they did find their way into careers and roles that you might more automatically think of with languages. Some went into teaching and interpreting or translating, but at least as many did not. Language studies gives you a wide variety of options and opens a lot of doors. A huge numbers of companies in the UK are genuinely global businesses with offices across the world, and language skills are highly sought after. Governments place a high value on abilities for languages through the diplomatic services and other routes. And there are direct routes into other things, other careers like journalism, international development, and into the third sector. Personally, I went into finance after university, and now I look after investor relations at a FTSE 100 listed asset management firm, dealing with our financial results, talking with our shareholders, and communicating our corporate strategy. I've had various roles in finance over the last decade or so. My background in languages has greatly helped me throughout this. So along with hundreds of other companies based in the UK, being able to do business on a global basis is absolutely vital. And communication, and therefore language, is key to this. Being able to speak to our regional officers in their languages goes a long way. It's always useful for them to know they can copy me on emails amongst their local colleagues. And one step further, being able to take meetings in their language is always very well received, even if those guys speak perfect English. So in summary, language skills are sought after, and they are valued by companies in many different sectors, and not just those that you might initially think of.
hello everybody. As some of you should know, even as the head teacher, I have a subject specialism, and my subject specialism is languages. And I was introduced to languages from a very early age and utterly fell in love with the subject from being about 9 or 10 at primary school. And the reason why I fell in love with languages and why I want all of you to fall in love with languages is just the different opportunities that it affords you in later life and as you are growing up. So effectively, what languages gives you is not only the ability to be able to communicate with people in different countries, but it also gives you an insight into the different cultural traditions, lifestyles, ways of interacting with each other, different traditions, different meal types, anything that goes with the different countries. But it also should engender in you an absolute passion to want to learn that language, and that's what should be burning really bright in your belly, really, that passion, that love of language learning, because it will never go away. Even if you don't use it for a little while, it will never go away. It will always be there, and it will be stored in your long-term memory, and it is something that you can use and put on anything, you know, CVs, job applications, anything like that, that will make you stand out from other applicants who haven't got a language qualification with them. It is a wonderful skill to have. It allows you to communicate with other people in their own language, which always goes a long way to engendering good relationships. And this is something that we want you, and I want you, to take away from Polesworth, having really enjoyed your experience of doing that passion for the subject, that fire burning in your belly, and a true love for language learning. Good luck, Year 11.
Hello, my name is Anna. I am a teacher, and I studied French and Hispanic studies at university. I have had a couple of careers. I'm going to talk about both of them and how languages have helped me in both of them. And the first one I want to talk about is that I worked as an expedition planner for a youth expedition group. So it was a company that took students, usually 16 to 18, with their school on expeditions around the world, so South America, Africa, Asia, for a period of time to do hiking and voluntary work. I worked mainly in the office as a planner, so this meant I used my languages quite extensively. I worked with South America a lot, so I used my Spanish to book accommodation, to book trekking, to speak to the providers in the country, to create risk assessments. But even if it wasn't in Spanish, if I was dealing with people in different countries, the kind of skills I learned from languages was also really helpful, as well as all the cultural kind of knowledge that I gained from my degree. I also went on a recce, so went to Costa Rica to check out the country, to make sure we could send groups there to look at the safety of the hotels and the treks and the projects and get information. So here again, I directly used my Spanish to get around and get that information whilst I was in Costa Rica. So this was a really great job for my languages. Now I am a teacher, so I teach languages, but I have taught English abroad. So I've lived in Madrid and in Indonesia. So the skills I gained from my degree have not helped me just with the actual teaching of languages. It taught me also to help me to be able to teach English abroad, and using the kind of skills and information I knew about language to actually teach my own language. And obviously it's helped me live in those countries. In Madrid, I already spoke Spanish, so it made it much easier to get around and settle in. And again, in Indonesia, it was more indirect, where it was quicker for me to pick up Indonesian and get to know the country and the culture I was living in. I then taught languages in the UK in both secondary and primary school, and now I'm living in Spain. I'm teaching in primary section of a British school, so I'm teaching all different subjects: math, science, English, but my the main language the students speak is Spanish at home. So although I teach them in English, like knowing the difficulties they have learning languages and what things are tricky to learn and what things are tricky to pick up, I can kind of help them more directly day to day. And again, I get to use my Spanish on a daily basis, just kind of living life. So languages have been a huge part of not only my career, but also my life and my lifestyle. I was also asked to tell you a couple of tips for learning languages. I think two of the things I do try to do the most to help me is, one, with kind of new words, is try to make a connection with something you already know, or kind of break down the sounds to kind of familiar sounds and kind of make a link with it. So a really basic example would be frío in Spanish, meaning cold. The beginning sounds a bit like freezing, so that kind of little link would help me remember the word. The other thing I find is really helpful is trying to find videos or music or books or articles to read on things that you're actually interested in, to make it relevant to you and interesting, especially if you enjoy reading books. If you can get hold of a Spanish copy of a book or French copy, or whatever language you're learning, of a book you already know, it makes it really easy, or much easier, to read it and to learn from it. So for example, I've read the Twilight series and Harry Potter in Spanish. Because I already know the stories, it's made it much more enjoyable. Thank you, goodbye.
Hello, good evening everyone. First of all, I would like to apologise to Mrs. Parker because I do not speak any languages fluently apart from English, which I also struggle with at some points. I am here briefly to talk about languages and how important they are to my career over the last 20 years. A brief intro to myself. My name is Richard Jones. I am a touring and production manager for various music artists, record labels and production companies. I have been doing this for, as I said, 20 years since I graduated, and I have been lucky enough to work with artists such as Rita Ora, Jessie J, Liam Payne, Zed, Girls Aloud, and other tours such as the X Factor and building productions such as film premieres. As I said, I don't speak any languages, embarrassingly. However, they are very, very vital to what I do and almost take precedent in most days' activities with me. I thought, first of all, I would talk about how I deal with different languages on a daily basis, both on the phone and via email. Both of these is how I deal with different clients in various territories around the world. I also thought I would look at, even in 2020, in the year of coronavirus, how many different languages I had to deal with, bearing in mind that for a majority of the year I have been in the UK and unable to work. So as I was looking at my diary, most of it being empty from March onwards, I counted up the languages that I had dealt with via email and or phone. And in January, which was very, very quiet for me, I dealt in German with a German shoe company. February, I dealt in Spanish, Portuguese, Swiss, French, and German. In March, I dealt in Dutch. April to June, I really didn't do anything at all, apart from play in the garden with my family and do lots and lots of dog walks, which is pretty much what we were allowed to do. In July, as we kind of came out of the first lockdown and things were opening across the world, I dealt in Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, and Indonesian. In August, I dealt in German and Italian. In September, I dealt with a company in Singapore, so that was Malay and Mandarin Chinese. In October, a lot of work again in the UK, so dealing only in the British language. And in this month, in November, I dealt with Egypt, so I had to deal with Egyptian translators. And in December, I have Bulgarian, French, and Arabic coming up. So this year has been a very, very, very quiet year for me. My majority of my work is usually in the summer, which is when we had a lot of work cancelled, unfortunately. So just to show you how important languages are to a business, even as small as myself, working primarily alone with groups of freelancers. Like I said earlier, it is very, very vital for you to engage initially with people in their own language, so you show a respect for their cultures. Very, very important face-to-face initially as well, rather than on phone or via email. It just shows respect to them that you don't turn up and expect them to all understand what you're saying in English. How languages are important to me is the fact that I spend a lot of my touring budgets on translators. Translators are a vital part of my team. I use them almost on a daily basis, depending on who I'm talking to. I use them to help me understand the legalities of contracts, so that when we're contracting shows abroad, we're not confused, or we're not confused about how those contracts work in their language. They can help us translate them into English, so we can make sure that we are getting what we need, both on a production and a financial element of our shows. I also use them, and I also bring them on board to help me on email chains. If people in other countries don't understand what we're asking for in English, they can help me translate it into their mother tongue, and vice versa. If they can't speak very good English, they obviously then send it to them in their language. They translate it to me, and we put shows together in pretty much every territory in the world via email using translators. I also sometimes call on them if we are having production calls, and me and the other person or the other people in different countries, sometimes more than one country, we can engage in conversations using translators at both ends, which is often quite fun and confusing at some points if everybody starts talking over each other. However, again, vital for us to get shows and TV productions across the line in different languages. And I also then employ them on the ground as I land into different territories to help almost as instantly as when we leave the plane. They help us going through customs so that we can explain why we're there, if there's any issues with any paperwork. They then also help us with the hotels, with language barriers, with drivers, with securities, with local production people. The list is endless on how important the languages are to me and my team across the world. As I said earlier, I don't speak very good foreign languages. I did German GCSE, and my school also offered French and Spanish. I know that a lot of schools now have Mandarin or Gujarati or other languages that are taking over as the most spoken languages on the world. However, I did German. I didn't do very well at it, I have to be honest. I think I got a D at GCSE, and my French is probably just good enough to order myself dinner and maybe a couple of beers when I'm traveling. However, I always make sure that I try. I've found that helps. If you at least try, they will then give you the respect to then speak to you in English. Looking forward to where you guys are heading with your careers and when you finish school, having a secondary language will definitely be important, and more so now with Brexit. I feel that employers will be looking for people who have secondary languages, especially European languages, in order for their businesses to trade more freely with Europe, and with negotiations that those companies may need to help with contracts and with trade once we leave the European Union. It also helps with global businesses to have second languages so that those people can go into break new markets. So if a company from the UK, for example, wants to go and break South America, they're going to look for Spanish speaking students. If someone wants to go and break Canada, if you're going into the French Canadian side, obviously a grasp of the French language would be amazing. And companies will look to people like yourselves with secondary languages to help their businesses grow in the future. Also with Brexit, I feel that companies may look to language students in the UK to help further their business here in the UK. So a French company may look for a multilingual student in the UK who speaks French in order for the French business to increase their business here in the UK, using your language skills to deal with the UK side of the business, and thus increasing the French business here. So again, vitally, vitally important that those people have secondary languages in order for that to happen. I also think that finally, we have spent so many years, especially my generation, where we only had basically French and German to learn. There was not many other options at all. Is that, again, my mum and dad would say to me, it's okay, everybody speaks English. And That's true. I've been to remote parts of Albania and Russia, and even as far down as kind of down towards the Arctic circles. People do speak English. However, those people that speak English is because English as a global language is very, very important. However, to gain people's respect, I feel having a second language or grasp of each language you need is an important tool to have, because we do have those people that say, don't worry, everyone speaks English. They do, but it's also important to respect their culture, respect where they're coming from, and at least to try, just to show your willingness. Okay, that is a lot longer than 5 minutes. I hope I haven't bored you senseless. Just the last thing I have to say is good luck with whatever you do decide to do in the future. Mrs. Parker has my details. If anybody wants to get in touch, please ask her for my details. If I can help in any particular way I can, please do feel free to contact me and I will see what I can do for you. Good luck and happy studying. Take care. Bye.
Hello, so I'm Mr. Price, a teacher from the MFL department, and I'm going to be talking to you about a revision structure, a revision plan, which you can run over a year, beginning with building confidence right through to being ready for the actual exam. So my sections will include creating a home plan, thinking about motivation and self-discipline, independent revision, monitoring your progress along the way, some suggested resources, because there will obviously be lots offered to you and lots to choose from, keeping a balance between the 4 skills of reading, writing, speaking, listening, and using your revision guide. This is made by teachers from the school, either the blue revision guide, which has all of this detail in, or the yellow one for German. So blue for French, yellow for German.
Hello, good evening.
Any questions, anybody? Good evening, and thank you for joining us. So whilst we wait for some questions to come up, we do appreciate that it has been particularly difficult for Year 10 and Year 11 to remain focused whilst working from home and then having short spells in school. But it's really, really important to keep that momentum going, particularly Year 11. You might be already aware that the government has been looking at different ways of doing the exam, and this particular exam this year is slightly different. Rather than having the 4 skills assessed in exam sessions, exam window, 25% for each skill, this summer it would be different in the sense that listening, reading and writing will weigh 33% of the final exam, and it will be done in a format which is pretty much the old format with slight tweaking of some questions. This doesn't mean to say that the speaking is off, and we would very much like to emphasize this. The format might be different. You might be assessed on a different type of questions. We are at this moment waiting for Ofqual to give us further information, but teachers will be expected to provide some information about the speaking ability of their cohort. So we'd like to encourage you to keep the 4 skills going, and thank you to parents for supporting their children in their revision, and well done to all of you for keeping at it in these particularly tricky times.
Thank you, Mrs. McClay. We also really need you to start looking at your purple booklets. Whichever class you're in, you will all have been given a purple booklet from your teachers, which has got example texts and paragraphs and potential questions that could come up in a speaking or a writing exam scenario. And it's really important that you start engaging with those and looking at them and at the model paragraphs that are within those booklets, and making sure that you've got lots of answers and ideas on what you can put in. Because remember, it's your chance to show off and to show what you know to an examiner. We know what you know, we know how wonderful you are, but you need to show that off to them.
There is a question here. I see. How will exams be assessed if exams are cancelled in the summer? Well, that's the $2 million question, because of course last year when exams were cancelled, it was the responsibility of Ofqual and the government to provide a way of giving each student a grade. At this moment in time, as I said, everything is still set to happen. So the exams are still on the card, but of course we cannot say how it will develop after Christmas. So we will keep you posted. Of course, you have the national news, but we will have more precise information as teachers as to how our respective subjects will be examined, graded, etc. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, the purple booklet should have been given to all students. They will definitely be getting it probably over the next couple of weeks in year 9 if they haven't already, I would believe, Mrs. McLean, and they should have them already from in year 10 and definitely in year 11. If they haven't got one, if your child or you as a student don't have one, please ask your teachers. We've got loads of copies. Can I also point you in the direction of Mr. Price's language guides? They are being printed for all students. They are also on the school website, Mr. Brooks. If you could point people in the right direction, that'd be great. Thank you. But we can print hard copies for you all as well, and they'll be given to class teachers in the next week or so for you to take home. And they've got really handy tips for students and parents, and it's really worthwhile looking at that video that Mr. Price has put on, Mr. Brooks has put on, that Mr. Price has done for us. So that's really got lots and lots of handy tips and revision tips for you on there.
The revision guides that can be purchased, I think you need to access the school shop. Of course, most places like WH Smith, etc., will sell those. We have, as an institution, get them at a much better price. So you can access it through, is it My Child and School Shop?
Yeah,
and then we get a notification that you have paid, and then your child can then ask their respective teacher for a copy, or the teachers will be notified, so we can then hand it to your child.
And I think they're brilliant, a really useful tool, and the more things that you have to use for revision, the better. Also, your class teachers will be putting on revision sessions for year 11, which will be running after school and are running already after school, which are arranged with the individual class teachers, and really good time for you to ask questions. And also there's revision materials uploaded onto each of the teams groups as well for everybody to access. And obviously if there are any issues with accessing teams, you can speak to us and we can get hard copies of those sorted as well.
Yes, Mr. Brooks might be able to tell us if those links can also go on Teams.
I don't know if we can hear you, Mr. Brooks.
We do lip reading. We can't, but
parents might be able to.
Don't worry.
Sorry.
Okay, well, you asked a question, Mrs. Smith, was it Miss Smith, about how often? Well, in languages, as Mr. Price will possibly advertise in his clip, is the little and often. That certainly works best. Us as teachers, we recommend apps like Quizlet, and I know that several of us have given direct links to Quizlet AQA, so it's specifically designed for the topics that AQA, our exam board, is doing. So little and often they can access on their phone, on laptops, tablets, so it's super, super easy.
You should be able to hear me correctly.
We can hear you now.
Just
what
now.
I'm going to show you very quickly. There is a link in the description for this video to this web page, which is what we put up for curriculum evening. So you've got all of Mr. Price's videos. You've got some resources here for your help. And what we can do is we can add to this as we go along. So we can share this link with you. But this is quite a nice place to show how to use Caboodle, all of Mr. Price's little tips there, links to Bite Size, and also a link to the shop as well. So you can go and have a look for yourself and buy any of the resources. I'm just going to do it, and I've got some more questions here. Yeah. We had this question here from Abby. Is revision session only on a Wednesday?
No, they are with individual class set by the individual class teachers. So it depends. Obviously, if your child can't make a Wednesday, then us as teachers will do everything we can to accommodate you and your students. They'll be, yeah, and if it can't be with that particular teacher because they can't make that day, then we can sort it with for them to come with another teacher on a separate evening.
The mocks will help decide, you know, who's really in need of extra support, and that might clarify as well which groups.
Okay, we've got one question which was how often and when should this children start revising? That's a really, really good question. We say about three times a week for 30 minutes. Miss McClay's already alluded to the different apps and revision materials that are available for students. Year 10 exam?
Year 10, where am I looking? Yeah.
There will be assessments, mini assessments throughout the year, and then normally at the end of year 10 we set a formal GCSE paper in past paper in listening, speaking, reading and writing for year 10, and that's in the summer term. So they sit a formal GCSE foundation paper at the end of year 10.
For current year 10 and 9, there is an assessment coming up before Christmas, so they should already be told that before they go on their Christmas break, they will have done a test that will cover what they've done this term.
Awesome. So if we have any more questions, guys, pop them in the chat.
Yeah, I think there was one that we've missed.
This one, did we miss a question?
We've kind of covered most of them.
About missed teaching time.
Of course, we're available, all of us, for any questions you might think of in the days to come, on that school email, which I'm sure you can access, or ring us if you prefer to have that conversation live, if you like.
And can we just say a massive thank you to our speakers this evening? And I know that Richard Brooks said in his speech that he was happy to answer any questions from any students that have Jones.
We're struggling with the surnames tonight, sorry.
Richard Jones has said that he will be available via email. So if anyone is interested, please email me and I can pass his email address.
I see Lee Russell, you've got maybe one or two questions still. Any old past papers? Of course, the AQAs are as our exam board, but there are others at Excel, OCR, and they are readily available online. Anyone can access them. The latest one is usually kept secret so that teachers can use them for a mock. The more the better. So keep doing them, even if it's a different exam board. Any listening practice, any reading, it's all good. It's all good. Just keep doing it. Grab a reading on Yahoo or another article, something that interests you. The more exposure you have, the better. And talk to yourself in the foreign language. Yeah, so read something, do it aloud so you can hear yourself speak as you practice your pronunciation. Don't just read with your eyes, just say it aloud.
We've got a question here from Wendy about the child's not confident with French, feels he's struggling. Will he be made to continue to study going forward?
Will he be made? Well, we have several paths at the moment. That's the system we have in our school. So at the end of year 8, so students, I mean, we do not have a particular active role in those paths, selections, etc. But Mr. Quinney, our deputy head, works very hard at this and sorts different streams, so T-Path, P-Path and S-Path. The students in T-Path are the students who will carry on with a language, whichever one they started with in year 7, and then will progress through GCSE.
If they're not feeling confident, though, please come and speak to their class teacher, because we will do everything that we possibly can to support you and help you as a parent as well, support your child. So please do contact us and speak to us about that, because we don't want anyone to feel like that at all. We want everyone to know that we are here to support them.
Remember also that if they're currently year 10, they will have missed a big chunk in year 9, and I am sure that the exam boards will have to do something about how they test those students over the next year or so, just to make sure they're being fair to our students and don't make them feel that up against something that's way beyond what they can achieve. I think that's just not the way we want it to be. Spanish.
Well, they sit the exam in the summer.
Sorry.
If they don't do well.
People, they still sit the exam, some if they don't do well in their mock exam.
Yeah. Yes, the mock is really a chance for them to go over, you know, that our exam is linear. So that means that the exam will have topics from basically all sections of the language. And the mock is just there to highlight areas where they possibly need to spend a bit more time. But yes, they will carry on. Definitely, nobody is being dropped. Don't forget what they're experiencing now. It's a national thing, so all students are experiencing the same concerns, the same doubt, etc. And so, you know, keep at it. But yes, you will carry on and progress through the summer. Yeah.
Spanish.
Not at the moment. No, we don't have the capacity at the moment, but that's obviously something that's very interesting.
It has come up that some people want to talk privately. So if you just send an email to on Mr. Parker or Mr. McClay, just because we don't want to share your email addresses on the live chat, get in touch with them that way, and then they can deal with your.
Please do contact her. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, parents. We do appreciate that. It's been particularly difficult, and we do know, having studied languages ourselves, that it can be a subject that challenges all aspects of your learning. It's a skill, it's academic, it's all sorts thrown in together. But it's just a matter of confidence, and you just got to keep at it. Just go for it. You'll make mistakes. I mean, I've been speaking English for longer than I care to say, and I still make loads and loads of mistakes. So you know, you could be forgiven for getting it wrong sometimes.
But we just really hope that this evening has highlighted to you the exciting career opportunities and paths that language can take you. There are so many jobs and so many careers that a language can open so many doors for you. And it is just, if you really fully engage and take them and make the most of every opportunity that is presented to you, you can have some real fun with learning languages. It really is something that is, yes, it's hard work, but anything that's hard work and is worth doing, it's such an achievement and such and like we've seen tonight, all of the people and all of the different things that they've done with their jobs, it's really, you know, a wonderful thing to have and be able to do.
And we have we've got international employers on our doorstep, being in the Midlands, and with Brexit, you know, just to grab the opportunities. Whilst you can, as Mrs. Parker says, that could be just your extra bit that makes you stand out.
Fantastic. So if we don't have any more questions, a reminder that a link to the Curriculum Evening website with all of Mr. Price's videos is in the description. If you have any questions, Mrs. email address is on the screen. And if not, then we'll let you get on with your evening, I think.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Brooks, for giving up your evening this evening for us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.